Mr Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister. Does he stand by his comment yesterday, quote, "I've been busy running the country, but I am the first to admit it was a bit sloppy"?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes, I stand by my response to the question which asked me how I was unaware that Jackson Mining merged last year and sold its non-uranium interests.
The Honourable Leader of the
Supplementary,
Opposition.
Mr Speaker, does his sloppiness extend to his management of the flagship home insulation program, where an audit has found 63% of the work was substandard, half of it serious quality issues, including fire safety risks, and what responsibility will he take for that sloppiness and incompetence?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, no, but it's living proof that I've been busy running the country, given we're going to insulate 4 times as many houses in a quarter of the amount of time Labor did, and hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders will thank us for warm homes.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Order.
Was it sloppy, or was it more likely irresponsibility and thoughtlessness that led the Prime Minister to name the hitherto anonymous soldier pictured in Kabul as Willie Apiata, against all the advice given to him by the Special Air Service and by the New Zealand Defence Force?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, no. There's a couple of things there. Firstly, Defence had actually already made that statement, but I'm prepared... Well, they had. But yes, they had. They did 2 hours earlier at the press conference, but I was more than happy for them to do so. Secondly, for the record, both TV1 and TV3 had left messages to say that they were going to specifically ask me because they had recognised it was Willie Apiata, and at the end of the day, I'm not going to spend a week of having 2 pictures in the paper playing identical games when it had already been printed.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. Was it sloppy that this time last year he was promising the country 4,000 jobs from a national cycleway, and now by his own admission he's only created 280 and they're not even up and running yet?
Mr Speaker, no. I'll tell you what I can say, though, is just the overwhelming response to the over 2,000 kilometres of the cycleway up and down the country. The 54 requests. What I can say, Mr Speaker, is that's been such an overwhelming success. I have no doubt that future national governments may well look to extend the cycleway, and I have full intentions of speaking to the Minister of Finance in the second term of the national government, should we be lucky enough to get one, to ask for another 50 million.
Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Order. I apologise, Honourable Member, but order. I do want to hear the question from the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. Was it sloppy for the Prime Minister to have promised this country a youth guarantee where every young person under 18 would have a job or be in training and education, when the reality of what the Prime Minister has delivered is a third of Maori and Pacifica young people not in work, not in training and not in education? That's a disaster for those communities and New Zealand.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, no, because 2,000 young people are going on youth guarantee this year, 2,000 next year, not to mention the thousands that have gone on the Job Ops or Community Max program. And, Mr Speaker, what we do know is that young people up and down the country, their real future will be secured when they have national standards and they can read and write properly.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Order.
Mr Speaker, was it sloppy of the Prime Minister?
Order.
Was it sloppy of the Prime Minister to have described unemployment 2 months ago as at a level that was a pretty good result, while 168,000 New Zealanders are now without a livelihood, and when the Salvation Army reported to us last Friday that 30,000 more children are now living in households where neither parent are working?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, no, given New Zealand's unemployment rate is below the OECD average. I mean, any person that's lost their job obviously is an unfortunate thing. Secondly, contrary to what the member's been going up and down the country telling people, the last quarter of last year was a very small contraction in number of jobs. Yes, there were a lot more people staying in the country, people looking to come. No, 2,000 people actually in the last quarter. Mr. Speaker, one interesting point did come out of the Salvation Army report, and that was it showed that I think it was either 69 or 70% of young people that live in homes that are based on a benefit are living in poverty. And that's one of the reasons why this government is going to undertake welfare reform.
The Honourable
Mr. Speaker, was it sloppy management on the part of the Prime Minister that the young girl that he used as a photo opportunity at Waitangi has now been described by her mother as having been used by the Prime Minister, and that his promise that those on Struggle Street would be better off has been the reverse, that they're now worse off, and that is because the Prime Minister has looked after the high-income people and not those who are disadvantaged.
Mr. Speaker, I don't have to hand with me the Sunday Star Times as I did yesterday, but if I did have it, I'd be able to read out all of the improvements that have actually happened in Magee and Close, which are quite some number. But Mr. Speaker, what is I think is illuminative of the questions. What is informative, shall I say, of the questions from the Leader of the Opposition today is he's never been around a political leader that could ever say they made a mistake. Well, guess what? Sometimes we all make mistakes.
Question number 4, Louise Upston.
Speaker,